Hi, guys. It's one of those days. Can hardly get moving. I hope everybody's having a great day. I've been kind of following a few things that have been popping up on social media, both on TikTok and on Facebook and Instagram. There's a lot of people still without power in parts of the U.S. From the hurricane that hit earlier this week. So hopefully everybody is safe and sound, and that you're not cleaning up too much damage, I hope. And that you're all safe and well. That's the most important thing. Up here, we had a hurricane blow through, and it kind of just sort of kissed the coast a little bit, left us with a bunch of rain and very little wind. Made things a little bit messy. Some flooding in some lower areas, but nothing horrible. So we got by relatively unscathed, which is a good thing. And the rest of the week has been very, very nice. It's been a little cool at night. We're down to low double digits at night, so 10. I think we went to 9 at one point this week. It was a little chilly first thing in the morning. I'm loving it. The warm bodies that like the warmer weather are not, but I'm loving it. I'm loving the cool weather because we're coming into my favorite season. I think it's Renee's favorite season too.
Yes. I'm already wearing flannel.
Yeah, that's true. You wear flannel in the middle of summer.
That's true.
Yep. So, and I switched. I'm having my caramel coffee.
Yeah.
I just wanted that sweet and creamy.
Yeah.
So I went and got one. I don't drink a lot of coffee anymore, but I just felt like one today. Usually I have tea, and I've had my cup for the morning. So today we're going to be painting all the colors of fall. I love this piece. I love the colors in it. It's very autumnal, and I love the bright blue pumpkin.
Which I don't think is natural, but...
No. When have you ever seen a blue pumpkin in a pumpkin patch? I've seen white pumpkins.
Is it the great pumpkin?
No.
No? All right.
It'd be the cool pumpkin.
Be the cool pumpkin.
Oh, goodness. I'm having a hot flash. So that's what we're doing today, is this piece. I love it. I think it's fun. I have another version of it as well that I'm working on. But I think this one is fun. It'll make a nice little decor piece for your entryway or to greet friends and family. I just like it. It's fun. And it's not a difficult paint. It'll be fun, I promise you.
You've seen moldy pumpkins.
Moldy pumpkins, yes. Kathy Williams. I love a blue pumpkin. I'm with you. I like blue pumpkins too. Oh my goodness. Morning from Nebraska. Very dry here, no storms. Linda Giesbrecht. Good morning, sweetie. How are things in the peg?
What about the pink pumpkin?
A pink pumpkin?
Yes.
Well, I won't paint a pink pumpkin, but somebody might.
Linda's
I don't do pink pumpkins. I did not have. Yes, I did have Happy Mail this week. I got my goodie package from R12 Stencils this week. They've got a really cool project of the month thing going on, and I decided to order one just to see what was included. I was really very pleasantly surprised. They have a great surface and a great selection of stencils and all kinds of fun projects, and then they include discount codes for other projects and things. Really a great one. So if you get a chance, go and check out r12stencils.com. They're Patricia Rawlinson is a great friend and incredibly talented. The mind never stops working, and that's her company, is R12 Stencils. She's amazing. Amazing. So go and check them out. We have amazing giveaways today too. What? You have that look on your face.
Apparently there is such a thing as a blue pumpkin.
Really? Okay. That's news to me.
How is that?
He's going to look it up now.
Well, I got Google. She gave a specific name.
Oh, yeah? Okay. So we do have some great giveaways today. Like really great giveaways. We have a beautiful stencil brush from Dynasty. this from the Stencil Pro line, a really nice, beautiful synthetic, nice big one, and then a gorgeous. Oh well, that's cool. A blue pumpkin.
Blue pumpkins. They're called.
Who knew?
Jaharadale pumpkins.
Okay.
Is an heirloom variety of winter pumpkin bred in Australia with a blue-gray skin.
Cool.
Huh.
That's a new one on me.
Yeah, there you go. Blue pumpkins exist.
Blue pumpkins exist. Okay. Yep. So, as I was saying, the giveaways this week. Gorgeous Dynasty Pro stencil brush. Nice big one, so you can do large surfaces with it. A fabulous stencil from the Stencil Studio. It's not one of the minis either. It's one of the big 8.5 by 11 stencils, the big decor stencils. They're beautiful and fun. I happen to know what they are, so they're very cool. So you have those. Plus, of course, we always put a few other little giveaways from us in there. And there is one of the Stampendous vintage note stamps that I use all the time. And you're going to need one because we've got a couple of projects coming up that are going to require it. And we don't have a whole lot of them left. So that is the giveaways for today. So in order to get on that, your name on that wheel, make sure that you like the stream, like the YouTube channel, follow the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the follow button on the Tracy Morrow Live page, and just in general, hit all the buttons. Just hit all the buttons. And join in on the conversation in the chat, both on Facebook and on the YouTube channel if you get involved in the chat. If you have questions or whatnot, feel free, and your name will go on the wheel. And at the end of the stream, we will spin it, and 3 of you are going to win that set of Dynasty Stencil Pro, the stencil brush, the stencil from the Stencil Studio, and the stamp from Stampendous, and myself, and a bunch of other goodies that we always tuck in there. So, have I covered everything? I did my shout out.
Yeah.
Studio R12. I'm just going to double check. My brain's not functioning this week. I mean, it's good for life support, but aside from that, it's not doing much.
It's good for life support.
Well, you know, it's running the machine, but that's about it.
It's running on default.
It's running on default. That's a good word for it, you know. It needs a reboot.
Have you tried turning it off and turning it on again?
Well, maybe defrag the whole system might be a good idea. If I were a computer, I would be at the shop. Let's put it that way. Ugh. In case you're wondering, I have an absolutely vicious headache today. I've had it for how many days now? What day are we? We're Saturday, so
4?
6.
6.
This is day 6. Because
Yay.
I have shingles again. Again. And it never fails. Just, I would be due for my shingles shot in about 6 weeks.
And now you are.
And now I have to wait another year before I can. So, yes, I'm not impressed. So, and of course, it's on my head. So it's been giving me this nasty headache for the last 6 days. So, color me happy. Hence the reason I'm on default settings this week.
Trying to see what's going on the Facebook. See if our multi-stream chat.
Elsie, a nice walk on the beach would reboot you. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Are you sure that's coffee in your cup? Sadly, yes.
It's just coffee.
It's just coffee. Oh, Lynn Bowman, I hate shingles. Oh, this is my 4th bout with them in 3 years. I got them right after I got my my first vaccine. Yeah. I this time around the rash wasn't bad though. It wasn't. I didn't get much of a rash, thank God.
Oh, geez.
Yes, I know, Harlan, they are no fun. I really dislike them immensely. So hopefully everybody is doing well.
No, Sandy,
Carrie, you're so sweet.
I'm guessing Sandy's back from Florida.
She is. I'm very jealous. She's had her toes in the sand for like a week.
Happy 33rd wedding anniversary.
Mm-hmm. Her and her hubby are celebrating it. 33rd anniversary.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Good for them.
However, shingles aside, I'm having a good week. I've been having a lot of fun. I've been designing, been playing. I have classes coming up. So next Saturday, we don't have live, but we will have video for you.
Yes.
So we have just a simple little project. It's nothing overly complex, but I think you'll enjoy it. So we have a nice little project for you for next Saturday. The video will be posted at 12 noon. Renee will take care of making sure that video gets up on the YouTube channel.
Wait.
And so you'll be able to watch that video at your leisure. It won't be live, but you'll be able to watch it. Pardon me.
What is that, the 9th?
That's the 9th.
And then the 16th.
And then the 16th, I am off teaching 2 classes, live and in person. I have to go people.
Ugh. Ew.
To go people, but I'm going to people with some really great people. So,
Ew.
yeah, I get to go play. I'm going to Toronto, Ontario, and going to be painting with the gals at the Hamilton Area Decorative Artists group. So we're excited. I'm excited about that. So their box is leaving this week. So it's going to be fun. I'm just looking at the feed here to see who else in the chat. There's Kat McDonald, Janet Demon. Oh, congratulations. She had her 55th wedding anniversary on the 31st. Well done. Well, everybody seems to have joined us. So, gang, if you are ready to get started painting all the colors of fall, so am I.
Far too cheerful.
I'm trying. I'm medicated, that's why.
Heavily. All the drugs.
All the drugs, yes. I've had a couple of good ones. They make this bearable. That's what they do. So this is the piece that we're doing today. This one is really fun. It has a heavily distressed background, which is great because you don't have to really worry too much about getting it absolutely perfect when you're doing the stenciling. And because there's stenciling involved is the reason that we've got such great giveaways today. So there we are. Now, this one features a whole bunch of different colors. I don't normally have this many colors in my color list, in my supply list. But I really wanted to get a lot of those colors into this. All of those autumnal colors.
Oh, somebody's spending a birthday with us. Hi, Eaters. Rorwick. On YouTube.
Ah, okay.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Not birthday. It's birthday.
Birdie. She's having a happy birthday. Will this be available as a kit? We can always make it available as a kit. This, the only trouble is that this surface is, this is done on a canvas. So you can also do this on a wood panel. But yeah, it will eventually be available as a kit.
You can get it at the dollar store.
Yeah, what this one is just a dollar store or Michael's cradle. That's all it is. Super simple. This one is an 8x8. So I've got a little board here we're going to quickly demo the background on. And this one is not difficult. I'm using a 1-inch buffalo check stencil for this. And I very rarely do things so that they fit perfectly inside the lines. Why would I do that?
Why would I start now?
Yeah, why start now? It's too little too late.
Haven't been coloring in the line since I was a kid.
Didn't even do it then. It was always much more fun to think outside of those lines. Oh my goodness.
Coffee?
No.
No.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's the sweet and creamy?
It's a sweet and creamy and the water wasn't hot enough.
Oh.
So it's kind of meh. And like you, I'm not a fan of that creamer. So I'm using a little bit of warm white on my stencil brush. And I start out here on one of these open areas. And that just helps you blend the paint in. We're not looking for perfect. The statement neatness doesn't count and perfection is to be avoided at all costs has never applied more than it does here. Because we just want to get a little color on. That's all. We do not need it to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, because we're going to distress the living daylights out of this. And I'm going to show you a neat toy that my girl Sandy sent to me. And I've had it sitting here for quite a while. So I know Sandy will have the link to this, because she's savvy that way, our girl. It's this. Where'd it go?
She's got all the links.
She's got all the links. Like, nobody knows I don't know how she finds them so fast. That's what gets me. This is a buffing emery sponge, for lack of a better term. It's for nails. I mean, for buffing your nails or smoothing your nails out. The dear lady sent me a great big package of them. And I discovered that they're fabulous for distressing things. I use the small ones for sanding edges when I'm doing decoupage. Honest to Pete, I haven't touched anything with red paint, and I have red paint all over me. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, so a little bit of warm white everywhere. Comme ça. And then I'm going to remove my stencil and try not to get red paint all over everything. How I do this, I have no idea. So I'm going to position my stencil, try to line it up so that it fits properly. Something tells me I did that wrong. No, I didn't. Like I said, not firing on all cylinders today. So I'm going to turn this around so that I can reposition it. And I did do that wrong, honestly. Yeah. Okay, Trace. Some days it just doesn't pay to get out of bed. Really, Tracy, come on.
There you go.
Good God. Some days the elevator doesn't go to the top floor. That's all I'm saying.
You need to fire the bellboy.
Yeah. Okay. I have a white square when I shouldn't have a white square, but it doesn't matter.
It's all good.
It's all good.
We can make it work.
Yeah, I can. So I'm going to dry this real quick. Honestly.
Jeez, Sandy.
What?
Bang.
Links? Good girl.
Links.
These are fantastic. I'm going to show you this because these things are just the best thing since cookies. You can sand the edges. Look at this. Look, it wears right through the paint. It's fantastic. So distress this as heavily as you like. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you want to expose more wood, by all means. I like to see some of the wood at the edges shown through. And these things just work so well. And they're easy to handle. They fit quite comfortably in your hands, so. And the nice part is that because it's such a fine sand, it leaves you with a really nice smooth finish. So as I said, you can take off as much or as little as you like. And I like to expose some of that wood at the edges because I like that look. Because the next step, we're going to make that look so great. Now, the other cool thing about these, take them into the sink, run some warm water over them, and it'll rinse that dust out. You can tap them, take out the worst of it, but rinse it under cool water. Give it a squeeze. It is a sponge, so you can squeeze it out. Just let it sit aside to dry. They are fantastic for this type of thing, especially on smaller surfaces. If you're doing decoupage on things like Christmas ornaments and whatnot, you want to smooth out the edges and get rid of the excess paper. These are fabulous. I've had entirely too much fun with them. So I'm going to take a piece of shop towel and just wipe off the excess dust. And then we're going to put a little bit of asphaltum on this. And I'm going to make myself a little high-tech applicator. And I'm going to age the edges of this. Now, the wonderful thing about the fact that we've exposed some of that wood is that asphaltum is going to stain that little bit of wood that's peeking through. So it's going to give us a nice aged appearance very easily. Just like that. And then you just put a light wash of that same color over everything. And then when it's dry, that little bit of asphaltum, it just warms up all that white, softens that contrast a little, gives it a nice distressed look. I mean, look at all of this nice aged exposed wood in there. It's just so pretty. And if you want it a little darker, feel free. Go ahead and put a little bit more on. I like how that emery board sort of wears through a little bit. So it's not a harsh line. You just get this nice worn appearance at the edges as if it's done over time, instead of having this harsh straight line or deep scratches and whatnot from traditional sandpaper. I found that I really love that soft, worn look. That it's just so, so pretty. So I'm going to give it one more pass because I want this a little bit darker. I really like that vintage look, and it works very well for this particular piece. So a little bit more, just to make sure that that wood gets a little darker. Just like that. And now this piece looks like it's been sitting out in the garage or in the barn for years on end. And then it is ready to trace and transfer your line drawing on. Now, this finish by itself looks great just with lettering done on it. You could do something with Happy Fall just in white or in a nice bold red. You could use just this for all kinds of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be just this design. It can be a huge range of things. So if you wanted a smaller buffalo check, you could use a smaller stencil. You could do this with polka dots. You could do this with just checkerboard. So it's a very versatile technique. You can use it for a huge range of things. And it looks great on furniture. But when you're looking for a nice seasonal design, particularly something for fall or for Halloween, this type of thing works really well. So that is our background for our blue pumpkin. I love this. All those colors, those are my colors. I love them. So I've already prepped mine a little bit. Otherwise, I'll be base coating from now until next Christmas. So I have on these brighter colors, like this spiced pumpkin that's on this oak leaf, and for the bright yellow that's going up here, I put down a thin coat of warm white. And I did the same thing for our pumpkin. Now my base color for my pumpkin is Bahama Blue, of course, because I like my Bahama Blue. And I'm going to use a filbert for this. Now, because I've got that coat of warm white down, our Bahama Blue is going to cover a bit better. And in fact, I should be able to do this.
Can you sand on a wrapped canvas as well?
Yes, absolutely. Just keep in mind that the canvas has a slightly different texture, obviously, so you're going to get some nifty effects out of it. It isn't wood, so it's not going to look like wood. So, but yes, you can distress the canvas as well, quite easily. So when I'm base coating things like this, I apply my color following the shape of the space that I'm working in. So in this particular case, I just follow the curve of that pumpkin. Now, this piece does not really need more than one coat of Bahama Blue. Because we've put that little bit of warm white down, it's going to make our life a little simpler, so that we're not having to, 3, 4, 5 coats of blue over top of black. Just makes our life a little bit simpler. And because we're going to be putting so much highlighting and so much shading over top of this blue, we don't really need to worry too much about it being fully opaque. Should be fairly even, but it doesn't need to be perfectly opaque. We've got a lot of little spaces in there that need to be filled in, and I'll just switch to a smaller brush to do that, so that we're not making a mess. But that is essentially all we need as far as the base coat goes. So I'm going to switch to got an old rigger here that will do the trick to get into all of those little areas. Easy peasy. This is such a beautiful color, and it pairs so nicely with all of those deep golds, those bright yellows, those rich oranges. It's very complementary to all of those autumnal colors. And if I make little bobbles and wobbles, I can touch those up because I still have another coat of color to put on in a few places of other colors. And I usually go back in and tidy a few things anyway, so just clean up edges and...
Was that a filbert you used for the Bahama Blue base coat?
It was, yes. And the size that I used, it was a number 8. Tends to be a good size for a great many things. So, the Great Blue Pumpkin.
Off to organize this great crazy studio of mine. Sandy is busy.
There we go. So we have this oak leaf down here. I used a color called Red Spice. And it's one of the newer colors from Decor. It came out last year. It's one of those colors that you just sort of sat and look at for a while because you're not quite sure what you're going to do with it. And I've discovered I absolutely love it. It's about one value lighter than the cinnamon stick. Cinnamon stick is a bit more brown, whereas the red spice is a bit more orangey, which I just love. And it covers quite well. I'm rather impressed with its coverage. And then the oak leaf directly above it, that orange one, I put a coat of warm white down first before I put on the first coat of spiced pumpkin. I had kind of hoped that I'd be able to do it in one coat, but it didn't quite do it. So I wanted to get one more quick coat of spiced pumpkin onto this oak leaf. And you'll notice that we have a yellow oak leaf right here. And then you can see that pattern directly through that yellow. And I wanted you to see this because yellows are notorious. This oak leaf here is the same color as this maple leaf. And this is without a coat of warm white underneath it. So you can see all of that pattern. The color is directly affected by all of that dark color that's in that background and the pattern. So it makes it difficult to get good coverage. This is marigold. So I have a little bit of warm white here, and I'm going to grab a round brush, and I'm going to use marigold on this one. And I want you to see the difference that thin coat of warm white makes. It may seem like a lot of work for one color, but I promise you, see the difference? It gives you much better coverage. It doesn't, or I shouldn't say doesn't, it is not as dramatically affected by those dark colors underneath.
What's a good replacement for red spice?
Cinnamon stick.
Boom.
Cinnamon stick. Those are two colors I really, really like. The coverage is nice. The tone is really, really rich. The red spice, as I said, is just a little bit lighter than the cinnamon stick. But it works perfectly for this.
Lynn's got a good question.
What's that?
Is there a list of the recommended brushes for beginners?
I have a recommended list. Yes, I can make that available to you. However, I will say this, that depending on the teacher that you're with, they're all going to have a different set. Mine might not be the same as someone else's. So if there's a particular style of painting that you like, or if there's an artist that you particularly enjoy following, or if you like their work, my recommendation is this. Have a close look at how they paint, and what they paint with. And then work from there. So if you have an artist that you really like, you enjoy their work, and you paint a lot of their stuff, you're going to notice that there's a few brushes that they use consistently. I have a tendency to use very few brushes. Well, very few types of brushes. So just to give you a quick rundown, these are the ones that I use the most frequently. Oops, wrong one. Okay. So the brushes that I use the most frequently, my fugly brush. And that's what I call it, but in real life it is called a Dynasty Encaustic Oval. It's a 1 inch. This one I use in everything. A 1/2 inch angled shader, doesn't matter what brand it is, whatever brand that you prefer, whatever price point you want to pay in, a 1/2 inch angled shader, 3/8 angled shader. A couple of small rounds. I usually end up with a 4 and a 6 and a 2. Those are the ones that I use the most often. Any brand will do. And a 0 and a number 2 rigger, because I do a lot of lettering and whatnot. Those are the brushes that I use the most often, the 0 and the number 2. This is a Dynasty Faux Squirrel. And for a liner brush, I have 2 different sizes. I use a 10-aught extra long detail liner. That is the one that I use the most often, and a 15-aught extra long detail liner. And aside from that, a 3/4 inch flat for base coating or for applying washes and things like that. But I don't tend to use a huge volume of brushes. The only other thing that I use consistently is this, either a 1/2 inch, a 3/8, or a 1 inch stencil brush. So my personal list for brushes is relatively short. I have a small bouquet, and that's about what it looks like. I do not use a million different brushes. I just don't, and never have. So keep it simple. I am a fan of angles. A lot of teachers prefer flats. Discover which one works best for you. That's all I can say. I am a big fan of angles. I just find them very comfortable to work with. And these ones are my favorite. These are the Dynasty Faux Squirrel. I also use the 1/2 inch angle and the 3/8 angles from Dynasty Water Lily, which is these ones. Same sizes.
Sandy says maybe we should put Tracy's favorites on my website.
Yes, you should. I think she has most of them anyway. But yes, so I don't use a ton of different brushes. Almost all the brushes I use you just saw. So
Not from this angle.
not from this angle. Well, I have a lot of brushes. Don't get me wrong.
From this angle, she's got a lot.
I do have a lot.
But a lot of them are specialty brushes.
Yes. And it depends on what I'm painting. But as for basics, for a beginner set, just what I showed you is really all you really need. So I'm just going to finish out base coating that leaf. Booyah. And then over here, I used lush green. And I didn't do a very good job of base coating it. And you might have noticed that all the berries are white. I base coated those all warm white for good reason as well, because I'm using a color called Warm Sunset to paint those, which is this beautiful orangey red. It's so pretty. There we go. So, a little bit of lush green. Ugh. And then I have these fun little leaves up here. Now I have some wheat tucked in here, and I use that as a filler, just to add a little texture and a little direction. And we will take care of that a little later on. And I have a little bit of eucalyptus leaf in here as well, and we will clean that up after our pumpkin is done so that it stands out nicely.
Oh, what can you use to trace your pattern when you're tracing? on a black and white check. I'm having difficulty seeing my pattern with white graphite, and of course black won't work either.
No, you can actually get colored graphite paper.
Like a
So
red.
Ral actually makes a bright yellow one, and there is a red one available as well. But honestly, when I'm working on something like this, that's one of the reasons I use the asphaltum all over it, is because then it will soften the black, tones it down a little bit, subdues the white so that any of the white graphite stands out. But whenever I'm working on a really white background, I will get a fresh, or really black background, I will get a fresh sheet of white graphite so that I know I'm going to get a really bright line. As you can see, this is the sheet that I used. Because it's got the pumpkin on it. But a fresh sheet, especially when it's on something with a lot of black and white on it.
And a substitute for laurel?
Desert cactus will work just fine. I actually usually go to desert cactus, but I used the last of mine for a class piece.
And I nearly missed this one.
What?
Substitute for lush green.
Antique green will work just fine. I love antique green. It's one of my favorites. So we're going to start with the pumpkin in this particular case. So you're going to need a well-soaked 1/2 inch and a well-soaked 3/8 inch angled shader. And you're going to need some Prussian blue. And what do you want to bet?
Uh-oh.
You know, I'm running out of colors.
Oh, what kind of white transfer paper do you use? I can't find a good one.
The one I've got is Low Cornell.
Lord Cornell.
Oh, sorry, no, not Low Cornell. Royal Langnickel.
What?
Royal Langnickel.
Royal Langnickel.
Yeah.
For your white transfer paper.
Oh, I found Prussian blue. I found 3 bottles of Prussian blue. Oh, I had to go to my stash. We're not hoarders. We need this stuff.
Not hoarding if it's needed.
Good gravy, Marie. Come on, there we go. These things are a nuisance. Watch Sandy's demonstration of removing these heat shrunk plastic seals off of these bottles.
I can't believe it's September.
That makes 2 of us. I don't know where the year went. So I'm going to start with a little bit of Prussian blue. And we're going to blend that well. And we're going to get that Prussian blue right up underneath those leaves. I love Prussian blue. So I'm just getting that color in there. I'm going to grab my mop brush. And I'm going to diffuse that float a little bit. Just soften it.
Is the wood piece out for next week's project?
The wood piece.
I don't know.
No, it isn't. It hasn't arrived yet.
Oh, of course it hasn't.
Well, between wildfires, flooding, storms,
Hurricanes.
hurricanes, nothing seems to be getting anywhere quick.
Kind of putting a priority on the essentials.
Yeah.
What's a good round that keeps a nice point?
I like the Dynasty Black Gold, but I will say the Dynasty Faux Squirrel will hold a nice sharp point in their rounds. Their watercolor rounds are amazing in the Faux Squirrel. The nice big ones. Gotta have a brush. A good round's gotta hold a good point. And they have to hold lots of water, lots of paint. So I've got Prussian blue going into those spaces like so. And this is just giving our pumpkin a little bit of shape. Like that. Now Prussian blue is a very strong color and it's very dark. And in this particular case, that's going to work very well for us. I love the transparency of it. And because of that, we can layer it over and over again until we get the depth that we want and the darkness that we want. And I like that I can use a mop brush to soften it. I'm not looking for perfection as far as these floats are concerned because this is going to be a rustic piece, so it doesn't need to be utterly perfect. But we do want to get nice deep shadows where we need them. So focusing those shadows underneath those leaves and up towards the top of the pumpkin. Now, the dark side of our pumpkin is on the right, so I'm going to put a float of that Prussian blue on the right-hand side, like so, so that we get a nice dark. And then our highlighted side are these areas here. So I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to give it one more float, and then we're going to start deepening this dramatically. Easy peasy. I like these dark, deep floats. And if you need to, you see this little set of leaves here, if you need to, you can go over them. Because we're going to come back in and fill those in anyway. So I'm just putting a little float of that Prussian blue. I want to get it nice and dark up under there.
Vicky's wondering, how many times do you do a design before you see the final product?
That varies. I've done this one 3 times already. I did it 3 times before I got the pattern right. So yeah, sometimes it takes me a while. Sometimes I get it right the first time. Not that often, but
All you have to think about is Bob.
Bob has seen far too many. Yes. Bob has seen a whole lot of different.
Yeah. The reason Bob is the way Bob is is because he's a mistake.
Yeah, he's a boo-boo. Bob is a boo-boo. And a kind of creepy one, too, at that, I must say. So,
Ended up being the mascot.
ended up being my mascot, but yeah. I had a little bit of fun. I just had so much fun doing these. There's a pattern for these on my website. They're in the free download section on my website. It's a simple pattern and simple instructions, and there's video on the YouTube channel on how to make these little guys. These are the little voodoo dolls made out of gingerbread cutouts, and I just glued a pin onto the back of them, and this little guy stays on my favorite apron. So that's kind of what Bob precipitated.
There he is.
There's Bob. There's Bob.
Hey, Bob's creepy.
Yeah, Bob's creepy. You know, he's got like creepy white eyes. So, in case you're wondering, if you've never watched this before, in case you're wondering why we have a gingerbread cookie dancing around on the thing, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Bob.
It's Bob. Had to give him some kind of name. So, yes. So now anytime I do a cookie, everybody refers to him as a Bob. So the next color we're going to work with on our pumpkin is a little bit of asphaltum. So we got a little bit of our Prussian blue in here. I just want to deepen this a little bit. Et voila. And we're going to use a little bit of thinned asphaltum to deepen this. Now, the interesting thing about asphaltum is that, one, it's very transparent, and two, it has a tendency to change the look of blue from a bright blue to something a little bit more sedate. And we need that for this piece. So I'm just putting a float of asphaltum over top of all of those deep floats, and it deepens that color. It also tones that color, which is something else that we need. It's just making it a little more earthy, for lack of a better term.
What kind of varnish did you use on the pin? It's so shiny.
It's not a varnish. I used a little bit of UV
Activated resin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I told you, English is a second language today.
Words are hard.
Words are hard. So yeah, I just used a little bit of UV activated resin. It's just a craft resin that they use for making jewelry, etc. It's a fun product to work with.
Bob is great. Love Bob. I want to paint Bob with white eyes in Chattanooga.
Okay. We'll have to do him as a make and take.
Sure.
We could do a creepy little Bob.
Do a creepy Bob for Chattanooga.
Yeah. I think that'd be fun. We could do a make and take in the booth. So I'm just taking that asphaltum out onto wherever I put that Prussian blue. It's going to look a little messy, and that's okay.
You should paint Bobs for your name tags.
Oh,
for Chattanooga.
There you go. Oh, I'll be wearing a Bob. There'll be no doubt about that. You know, be walking around with a name tag that says, "My name is Bob."
Should I have a glitter beard for Chattanooga?
Oh, no.
No.
I have other plans for you. Be afraid.
No.
So I've got that first little bit of asphaltum on. I'm going to dry this real quick.
No, I won't do a glitter beard. No, we'll see.
We'll decorate him like a Christmas tree.
We got to see how,
how things progress.
How things progress. I'm still looking at that glitter fund. It's kind of stalled out.
Yeah, that's okay though.
Yeah, but
it's far beyond what we initially wanted.
Yeah.
So it's all good.
Just remember.
Yeah. Poor boy's going to be traumatized by the time we're done with him, ladies. So I'm just going back in with a little bit of asphaltum, just deepening all of these shaded areas. And you'll notice that I am not worrying about getting these absolutely perfect. Because I'm going to come in and around a pumpkin and underneath my pumpkin. Little float underneath just to ground this a bit. So it doesn't look like it's just hovering.
I think we're going to need a professional.
Professional. Oh my God. Okay. I left him unsupervised for like 20 seconds.
Ow! Ow!
He opened the bag of Christmas ornaments and did a test run on his beard. It looked painful.
It wasn't painful. Coming out, it was painful. Putting them in was not.
Okay. Oh,
Linda
Lord.
says, Franco, my mom's watching on YouTube today.
Awesome.
Right on.
Hi, Mary. So I'm going to grab a little bit of Bahama Blue. And I'm going to crisp up a few little edges. This just cleans up a few things. So little areas where they're looking perhaps a little sketchy, maybe not as clean or as smooth as you would like. We do have a highlighted area here, so we can come back in with a little bit of that Bahama Blue and just clean up a few things.
What is at Chattanooga?
Chattanooga is the it's an art and craft expo. Lots of classes and workshops and a variety of things, not just decorative painting. There's going to be a bunch of different things. It's going to be an exciting event. I've been submitting my pieces.
You were asked to
I was
teach
asked.
class there.
Yep. So I have submitted my pieces. Hopefully they get accepted.
We're bringing Bob.
And we're bringing Bob.
Sneak peek, Renee? No. I had to see if I could put them in myself.
There we go. There we are. So now that I've got my shading colors in, I'm going to grab a little bit of warm white. If I can get it out of the bottle. There we go. I'm going to grab a dry brush. I'm looking for a particular dry brush.
Is it an IPC?
It is.
Point blender?
No, I changed my mind. I'm going to use my big blender.
Okay.
I can get away with this because it's a Traditions brush. It's a dome blender. I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm white and a little bit of Bahama Blue. Instead of adding yet another color to the palette, I'm just going to quickly dry brush a little highlight right here. Just in from the edge. I'm not right on the edge, just in from the edge a little bit. A little bit of warm white right there. Following the shape of our pumpkin.
Renee, did you see my comment about you? That one?
The answer to that would be no.
No. Can't can't wait to paint with you and Bob in Tennessee.
It's gonna be fun.
Oh, Cheryl
What?
donated $20.
Thank you very much.
The fun has stalled. Get it going again for the Puppers and Co.
So there we go. Little highlight. Again, don't putz with it too much. Doesn't need to be putzed with. Just a nice little highlight, like so. And then we are ready. We are going to come back to this because everything gets tweaked. So we're ready to move up to these green leaves.
Thank you, Cheryl.
So plantation pine is my shading color of choice for my greens. Goodness, way too much water. So I'm using a little bit of plantation pine. I'm going to come up underneath those leaves, underneath the maple leaf. Like so. And then underneath this as well, up nice and tight under here. Make sure you get around those berries. Now, ordinarily, I would just wait and do my berries after the leaves, which is why I did not paint them right away. So, a little bit of plantation pine, shading color up underneath that and underneath those berries. You have to get it under the berries. Otherwise, they look like they're stuck to the leaf. You don't want that.
What color is the oak leaf?
Which one?
Brown one.
This one here is red spice or cinnamon stick. If you haven't got cinnamon red spice, you can use cinnamon stick.
Boom.
So I'm going to dry this real quick, and then we're going to put in the center vein on these leaves. Nice little float.
Me dressed as Bob?
Oh, dear Lord. Don't give him any ideas.
I'd be going around asking if they knew the Muffin Man.
Oh, my gosh. There's just too many possibilities for him to get into trouble with that.
There's not enough bail money for the stuff I can get into.
I've seen what he does with 3-foot-long pink bunny ears to get him started.
How I didn't get arrested on that, I don't know.
Well, mainly because your mother talked them out of it. That's why.
He's a special kid.
So, we have center veins, a little bit of plantation pine in there. I'll dry this real quick.
You have to sing like Adam Lambert?
No.
No. I can't hold a tune in a suitcase.
There we go. So we've got, I'm going to put a highlight on these leaves. I'm a huge fan of these neons. Big time. Huge fan. So I've got a little bit of matcha green.
What's the story about the 3-foot-long bunny ears?
Oh.
That will be saved for Chattanooga.
Yeah.
And those of you who have gone to my mother's classes in the past, all around North America, have heard the story.
Believe me, his personality has been developing into this for years.
What do you mean developing? There's a reason why you're not allowed out in public either.
I know. Unsupervised. Don't forget the unsupervised.
But look what happens when you just, hey, I need to go shopping. Well, the only person who can take Mom shopping is me.
Which is never a good idea.
The both of us unsupervised is bad. What's even worse is me and my two best friends unsupervised.
Yes. So I'm going to highlight the edges of these leaves with a little bit of matcha green. And that float is, I'm kind of creating a serrated edge with this. What?
They want to start another fund.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But bail money?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, you read your audience pretty well on that one.
Well,
We could start another fund for Renee for his bail money.
so that little float just creates that nice little serrated edge on there. Again, don't worry about it being perfect because it doesn't need to be. So it's just a little float, and then I leave a space, and a little float, leave a space. That creates the point. Leave a space. So you have instantly have a serrated edge on your leaf.
Karen Jones. Yes, I know you know the bunny ear story.
Yeah.
I have taken your mom shopping before. Then you know exactly what I mean.
I can behave.
Ish.
Ish. Fine, whatever.
There's Hobby Lobbies all over Tennessee.
Yes. So I'm going to try this real quick, and then we're going to brighten the highlight on these leaves. And I'm going to do that with a little bit of that neon green, that thermal green.
Oof.
Yeah. That's why I use that more opaque light green as opposed to a transparent green. And it helps give that neon something to work over.
Is information about Chattanooga on your website?
Not yet. I will post the link for the Chattanooga convention. I'll put it up on the Tracy Morrow Live page. So that little bit of neon, just float it right over top of that matcha green, and look at how that leaf pops out. That little bit of neon just does wonderful things.
See, while she's off at Hobby Lobby, I'm looking for gun stores and Harley dealers. That's my butter.
Yeah.
Harleys and guns. You'd think I belong in the South.
No, you belong in Texas.
I belong in Texas.
So there's that nice, bright, vibrant green. I just love how that looks. So we've got 3 little leaves up here. We're going to treat them the same way. Little float plantation pine at the base of the leaf where it joins the stem. And it's just a U-shaped float, nothing fancy. It doesn't have to be an elaborate thing, just a little U-shaped float right at the base of the leaf where it joins the stem. And you're going to dry that real quick. And then you're going to put a float down the center vein, like so. And we're going to highlight with that matcha green. Matcha green by itself is pretty bland. It's very chalky. It's so just a little bit at the edge down the center vein, just to get a little height, little bit at the outside edge. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it does help you get that. Nope, forgot this little leaf. Does help you get that nice sharp point. I almost forgot this little guy over here.
Renee, just curious, when someone likes, does the bob pop up automatically? Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And if you subscribe, you get a dot.
Yep. Yep. If you hit the subscribe button, you get a dot. Dot is a pupper dog.
The black pupper dog.
It's a black pupper dog. So you can see the difference that neon makes. But yet when we put that neon over top of that matcha green, look at this. We get that nice, vibrant, bright green. Makes it very lively. I love these neons for this. As a highlight color, just to pop things. Look, boom. Nice, vibrant color. It's what makes this piece stand out so nicely. So the only thing that's left to do for these leaves, aside from some small details, which I do towards the end, is just to clean up edges and shadows. We're going to go back in with a little float of that plantation pine, just to clean up some of those deeper shadows and the center vein. Just gives everything a nice deep look. Nice and crisp. There we go. Et voila.
It doesn't work on YouTube. If you like on YouTube, sadly, YouTube made it completely anonymous when somebody likes a video.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't. But Facebook keeps track of what people like.
Yep.
So, yeah. It's only if you like it on Facebook.
Yep.
YouTube, I get the whole chat room. I take the whole chat room. If you've commented, you go on the wheel. Facebook, because it's kind of glitchy on the software we use.
Yep.
I just take the likes.
Yep. We take the likes. So I have all these green leaves. I just love the look of them with that little bit of neon in there. And the green I used is this one. It's that thermal green. And now we're going to tackle some of these oak leaves. And because they're slightly smaller than these ones, I've switched over to a 3/8 angled shader. I like the smaller angles for this. And I'm going to start with this one down here. We're going to shade the center vein and underneath that orange leaf with asphaltum. So up underneath it, and that center vein with a float of asphaltum. And I'm going to deepen it because it's not all that dark. It is dark on my end, but it's not showing up well on camera, so I'm just going to deepen it. So there we have nice little center vein on that reddish brown leaf. And then we're going to put in a few of those little veins that come off the side. And where there's a loop is where I'm going to put that little center vein. So it's going to go like that. So I'm going to lift it up so you can see a little clearer where those veins are. So the float goes on towards the top. So darkest value right there. So that we've got these little vein lines in that leaf. So now that we've got that shading in, we're going to put in a little bit of highlight. And I'm going to use this. This is Torrid Orange. Now, I don't want this to come screaming off of there because I want this one to stand out. So I'm going to use a little bit of that Torrid Orange, which is that bright neon orange. And it's going to give us a really nice, soft, warm highlight on this leaf. It's a bit more subtle. And I just love how this looks. I just think that this is such a great color over top of that red spice or over top of that cinnamon stick. Either one is going to give you a really nice, subtle highlight. And yet you're going to get that really nice, warm look. And it just accentuates everything about this rich leaf. Look how pretty that is. So it gives you that really nice highlight. And you can let this dry, and then you can repeat it. It's going to get a little bit brighter. And I love that it gets just that little bit brighter each time you put a layer on. Just like that. So it's a bit more subtle. I'm going to dry that. And then I'm going to take a little bit of asphaltum, and this is where we get to clean up some of those shadings. So if things aren't quite dark enough, they're not quite sharp enough, you can just put a little float of asphaltum in there, and it's going to clean up all of those shadings and give you a nice defined look. And you can deepen it underneath the other leaf as well. There we go. Simple. I don't know. What'd you miss?
Should we bring our water basin to Chattanooga?
Yes. There'll be a list of what basic supplies that you will need for taking classes. So I'm going to put one more coat of that marigold on this leaf because it's still, because I didn't base coat it with a little bit of white, it's still not giving me a nice base coat. So I'm going to clean this up. One last coat and I think we're fine. So just for sake of argument, this took 2 coats, that one took 3. 3 coats of yellow to cover. This took 1 coat of warm white, 1 coat of yellow. So it does save you a little time and a little effort, a little frustration because yellows do not cover well. especially over dark colors. So I'm going to dry this real quick. Now, there's a color called Warm Sunset. I just have to find it. Warm Sunset. This is it here. It's a deep orangey red. And it's a wonderful color. And we're going to use it to shade our yellows. Love this color. I'm going to use my 3/8 for this oak leaf down here. And I'm going to tip load with a little bit of Warm Sunset. And just like we did on our dark oak leaf, I'm going to shade up underneath it with a little bit of Warm Sunset. And I'm going to dry this, and then I'm going to do the same thing, put in those nifty little lines. And it is going to look a little rough at first. That's okay. You're going to deepen it with a float of thinned asphaltum. You don't want this color full strength for this because it's strong, but we're going to lift that leaf like so and deepen that color. Need to deepen that. I think Gary's awake. I'm going to dry this real quick. Now, this leaf is going to look a little wonky for a second until I do this. I'm going to grab a little of that base color, and I'm going to float the edges of our leaf with the base color. And yes, I'm letting it go right over top of that warm sunset that's on there. Does two things, just mutes things a little bit. And then I'm going to highlight using that same base color opposite that sunset, that warm sunset. So it just helps subdue some of that a little bit, and it cleans it up and softens it a little. But it's the next step that makes this leaf pop. Scorching yellow. I love this yellow. This scorching yellow is going to come screaming off of that. And it's going to make this leaf really bright. And it's going to stand out so nicely. So wherever you put that float, you're going to put a float of that scorching yellow. And it does lovely things.
Oh no.
What?
My big dog got skunked.
Oh no.
Stinky puppy.
Whose was that?
Barb.
Oh.
Stinky puppy. Any suggestions? There is a product that is specific
To skunks.
to skunks. It's a shampoo for dogs to get rid of skunky smell.
Yeah. And then go buy a gas mask.
However, I've heard of oatmeal working,
Tomato juice.
tomato juice. I can't remember the name of the product. Almighty Google.
So we have that spiced pumpkin leaf. And I'm putting a float of asphaltum up underneath here to lift it off. And around our and I'm doing the same thing to this that I did for the other two. Just put that little float like so out to the point. Doesn't come right to the edge, but and then I'm going to take a little bit of warm white. I know you're probably wondering why warm white. Well, we want a nice little highlight on here, and I've thinned this warm white out quite a bit. I'm going to put that highlight. It's heavily thinned, so it's not fully opaque. I'm going to put that little bit of warm white on the highlight areas of this leaf because I want this orange highlight to really pop off of there. So I'm going to dry that real quick, and then we're going to float right over it.
Deskunk.
Deskunk?
Deskunk.
Oh, deskunk. Okay.
Big purple bottle. It's called Deskunk.
Okay.
It's a 100% natural deodorizer.
Okay. It must break up the oils or something.
Yeah.
So I'm highlighting over top of that warm white with that thermal or torrid orange, that bright red, that bright orange.
Trust me, tomato juice does not work. Okay. Vinegar, baking soda, and Dawn dish soap.
Now, Dawn I could see because Dawn would break up the oil. Yeah.
Careful with vinegar. Dogs very sensitive to vinegar.
Yeah. Well, it's an acid, so not surprising. So let your orange leaf dry for a bit. And then thin out some asphaltum. You want it really thin. You don't want it full strength. And you're going to come back in and deepen those floats. It cleans up those highlights. Just accents them a bit more. Gives you nicer depth and softer finishes. And then don't forget that underneath that maple leaf, you've got to deepen those floats.
Substitute for warm sunset.
Spiced pumpkin is close, but it's one of those colors. It's just cadmium orange is close. It's just not quite opaque enough. I would say add a little bit of white to red spice or to cinnamon stick. Just a little. So we're going to come up here to this yellow, to that marigold maple leaf. Actually, no. Let's do the red one in the back. Be easier. So the color I used for this leaf back here is Country Red. And I didn't put any white under it because I didn't want it to be bright. I wanted it to stay rich and dark, or deep, I should say. And so I'm kind of letting the background influence this color a little bit. So I'm just going to quickly put a second coat on. And I'm not really worrying too much about down in here, these darker areas of it, because we're going to be putting some other color in there.
Does the neon fade?
I haven't had that problem, but I usually put something underneath it. So like a warm white or another yellow or some opaque color underneath it. I don't find that it fades. And if you really want it to last a long time, try the black light neons. They glow in the dark under black lights. So I have a little bit of Country Red in there. I'm going to dry that real quick. And the shading color that I'm using for that Country Red is Cranberry Wine. I love this. Not a color I use often, but it works really well for this, especially for autumnal color palettes. It's a purpley red. It's a deep, deep purpley red. And I'm going to use a little bit of that in those lower areas. Now you could float this in, but I'm just going to brush a little bit in. It's just easier. And just make sure that it comes up and overlaps that Country Red a little. It's a nice rich red. And this is such a small area. We just need that darker value down in there. That's all.
You have me in the mood for fall. I'm going to make a nice big pot of beef stew for dinner. It's too warm for that.
Yeah, it's too warm for stews yet for us, but not too warm for roasted chicken.
I like roast chicken.
Yeah. Roast chicken. I've got some nice garden veggies, some nice Swiss chard. And what else are we having with it? Kolkanen.
Kolkanen? Mm-hmm. I like kolkanen.
I know. So I'm going to put a float of that cranberry wine down the center vein of this leaf and on those smaller veins coming off. It's just a simple float. Don't overthink it. Just creating a center vein. That's all. Little texture. And I'm going to dry that. And then I'm going to use a little bit of the marigold. I know, you're probably wondering why. I want to keep to that sort of orangey red tone. So I'm going to bring a little of that marigold out to the edge of the leaf like this. On that highlighted area. Remember how we did the serrated look on this leaf? We're going to do something similar to this one, just at those points. And as I said, don't overthink this. It's just a little float. Oops, a little too much. There we go. So I've got a little bit of that marigold just at the edges of these leaves. Like that. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. And the reason for it is this. Same reason I use the lighter values underneath those neons for everything else. So I'm going to grab a little bit of that torrid orange. That bright orange, and I'm going to come out to the edges of that red leaf and go right over our marigold. And that's what's going to give this leaf its bright orange edge. That nice bold red, orangey color at the edge of those red leaves. And it's going to pop those highlights.
Bloomfield is having a family reunion.
So Deb Bloomfield came up with one of her own designs the other day and posted it on the members group. It's called Iris. I only have eyes for you. And it's a skull cup full of eyeballs. It's so cute.
Nice.
It's just awesome. Anyway, so she's posted it as an RAK for the members. So it's super cute. So now we have that bright red leaf in the background. And we're going to come forward and take care of this leaf here in the foreground, this maple leaf. And this is also, we're carrying this color over. So we're going to use a nice big float of warm sunset. And we're going to float those center veins on these leaves with that warm sunset. Such a gorgeous color. And I really like this to be rich. So I'm going to deepen it. I like that rich orangey red. It's just so pretty. And then I have some Sunny Day, which is probably the lightest value of yellow we're going to use in this. So I really want some of these other colors to pop. So I'm going to grab a little bit of Sunny Day.
It's amazing that they gave out so many day passes at the Nut House.
Yep.
That's from Bloomfield. Deb Bloomfield. Amazing, we all got passes from the Nut House at once.
Yep, the inmates have overtaken the asylum. So, a little bit of that Sunny Day. And remember the same thing that we did on the edge of that red leaf. We're going to do that with a little Sunny Day on the edge of this yellow one. Just a little. Doesn't have to be perfect, and it's going to create a little visual texture in there too. That little float that sort of creates a serrated edge helps you create a lot of texture and instant shadows. What?
Very honest labeling.
Oh,
It says beef loin, T-bone, steak.
okay.
Humanely raised, but occasionally verbally abused.
Okay. Occasionally. Okay. Okay. So, I've got that simple highlight on there. I'm not overdoing it. It's just to create a little texture at the edges of these leaves. I'm going to dry this real quick. And I'm going to come back in and I'm going to deepen those veins a little bit with one more float of that. There we are. And it looks pretty rough right now, and it will for a second. And then I'm going to use that scorching yellow. And this drastically changes this leaf when you put this scorching yellow over top of all of that. So that little float over top of that sunny day, over those highlighted areas. This leaf gets very, very bright. And all of those wonderful little details start to take shape. I'm going to dry this real quick. And then we're going to deepen all of that shading with a float of asphaltum. And I'm using it heavily thinned. Don't need it to be perfect. Little float of asphaltum in there deepens all of that color. And then we're going to come up here to the wheat. Now the wheat is fun because you're going to use the sunny day and the marigold at the same time. So you're going to pick up marigold, and then you're going to put a little dab of sunny day on the tip of the brush. And you're going to do this. So it's just a little dab, like so.
What can you use instead of scorching yellow?
If you don't want to use the neons, I would probably go into a cad yellow, like really bright yellow, for the final highlight. So that round brush loaded with, and it's a double load of marigold and sunny day. You need both on there because you're going to get sort of a two-toned look. And that tucks your wheat in. And I'm going to dry this so that I don't end up putting my fingers in it, because I'm notorious for that. So make sure it's good and dry. We'll do all of the little fine lines and details all at the same time. There we go. So we have eucalyptus. I like a little touch of this. It just ties all these blues in. And the color I'm using for that is this one. It's laurel. If you don't have laurel, you can use desert cactus. The laurel is like a grayed out green. I'm going to clean up these little leaves here. They get a little rough looking with all of the other shading and highlighting going on. And this is your opportunity to clean them up. And I'm just using a zero rigger to, put this back in. You can use a small round or whatever's comfortable for you. Sort of an inverted heart. And we have them over here as well. And this is an odd or an unusual color combination when I paint eucalyptus. I think usually eucalyptus is this dark gray green, and depending on what I'm putting it with, I kind of like to have that more of that cooler blue tone to it than that grayed green. And so I gravitate towards shading it with something a little bit different. So I'm using Mermaid's Tail, which is that brilliant transparent teal. It's such a pretty, very pretty teal tone, and it works really, really well for painting eucalyptus. So it gives it that green, deeper green tone, but at the same time, it ties it nicely to all these blues that we've got going on in here. So I'm going to dry that real quick, and we're going to shade it with a little bit of Mermaid's Tail. I love this color. And it actually ties really nicely to our blue pumpkin. So I'm using a 3/8 angle. And we're going to float, just like we do with the leaves, we're going to float at the base of the leaf where it joins the stem. Like so. Little U-shaped float, or in this case a V shape, so that it comes up the sides like so. Make sure that you thin it out a little so that it's not this really harsh color. We want it fairly soft. I'm going to put that little float right there. Nice little V shape. It is a strong color. But as I said, it ties really nicely to that pumpkin. So there we have our little V-shaped float at the base of each of those leaves. And then we're going to create a bit of a curve in these leaves by giving it a center vein. So, and I'm going to start that float right where it joins the stem. And curve down to where the center of that heart. So the heart curves that way. And again, this is going to look a little rocky for a second. So we have a little center vein in. And then we're going to put a highlight of warm white on this. So a little bit of warm white. And blend it out so that it diffuses a little bit, so it's not a harsh highlight. And then you're going to float the bottom of that leaf and then down the center vein, opposite the shading. And it just helps give those leaves a slightly frosted look. Like so. There we go. I like that little blush of white, just cools these off a little and gives them a nice soft look so they don't look so harsh. And it also creates a nice contrast between the other things that it's on top of so that they pop out a little bit. There we go. So we have eucalyptus. So now comes the fun part. We get to do all those berries. And we're going to base those berries with a little bit of warm sunset. Now, when I'm tracing berries on, I like to use a shape maker or a template so that when I trace, I get nice round berries. That way they don't get egg-shaped. And believable berries are round. So I'm going to base coat all my berries. And this is why I base coated them white. I wanted these berries to be bright. I wanted them to be brilliant contrast against everything else. They needed to stand out. And they needed to be round. So I use that shape maker to ensure that I have nice round berries. And there's 100 different ones out there. I think most designers use them for one purpose or another. I like using them just when I'm tracing a design on because then I get a nice accurate tracing. And all those things that you want to stand out will stand out. Better it stands out because it's nice, bright, and perfectly shaped than standing out because it's wrong shaped. So there is our or it could end up like this berry that's going to get bigger. There we go. This is just such a gorgeous color, this warm sunset. And then on top of that, all that black, having that white underneath it, it just keeps those berries nice and bright.
Aw,
What?
better than Healy. Just donated 50 stars.
Oh, nice. Thank you very much.
You got a few. What is a replacement color for mermaid tail?
Peacock teal. Will do the trick.
Peacock tail.
Yeah, or bluegrass green will also do the trick. They have that bluish undertone, so that's the most important part.
And what was the shade color for the eucalyptus?
Mermaid tail.
Oh, it was mermaid tail.
Yep.
What's the orange you're using on the berries?
This is warm sunset.
Warm sunset.
Love this color. It's sort of halfway between an orange and a terracotta.
And lastly, I'm guessing they mean the overall blue color is Bahama blue.
It is Bahama blue, yes.
Is that a new color?
Bahama blue or warm sunset?
I don't know. He just said
Warm sunset came out in 2020.
Bet DeLong sent 99 stars.
Awesome. Thank you, Bet. Every little bit makes a difference.
And coming into the winter season, they're going to need it.
Yep.
Got to pay that heating bill.
Well, they have so many cats. So many cats right now at the shelter. There we go. So we have warm sunset. Just make sure they're all dry before I move on to this next step. I'm going to add a shading color to these berries. And we're going to use a little bit of that cranberry wine that we used in the maple leaf. And this is our shading color for these berries. Now I'm going to shade them, and I take that color right to the edge, like so.
How do the stars work? So Facebook is using stars as a way to monetize certain lives and videos.
Mm-hmm.
And you purchase stars from Facebook, and you can use them at your own discretion.
Yep.
And essentially, every star is a penny.
Yeah.
And if you don't send your stars to a live, we get the pennies.
We get the pennies. Well, and the nice part is that for us, those things that we get both from YouTube and from in the Super Chat, donations that come through Super Chat, or donations that come through the use of stars on Facebook, we apply that to our glitter fund down here. And our glitter fund, all of those things go to our local SPCA, which is that Christmas for the Puppers bar that you see at the bottom of the screen there.
Question, Tracy, if using rock lawn
Yes.
as a floor cloth, do you have to put a backing on it, and what varnish would you use to finish the surface?
Well, now here's a tip for working on floor cloths in general, whether you're using rock lawn or if you're using canvas. It really doesn't matter. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So if you put 4 coats of varnish on the front of your finished piece, you have to put 4 coats of varnish on the back of your finished piece. Otherwise, you're going to have curled edges everywhere. And it'll drive you insane. So there's a number of different products that you can use for rock lawn. And my personal favorite is Decor's Soft Touch Varnish. And my reasoning behind that is that it has a nice velvety-like finish, and it doesn't get particularly stiff. So it will give you a nice durable finish, but it doesn't make it rock hard. And I would recommend 2 to 3 coats. If it's a large surface, something that's going to be sitting on the floor for a long period of time, isn't something that's going to be rolled up frequently, use a good quality exterior varnish on it. But whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. That is the rule. Otherwise, you're going to end up with curled edges, and you don't want that. A good exterior varnish will work very well. I just avoid using an oil base simply because I don't care for the yellowing. They have a tendency to amber over time, and I don't care for that. But Deckwart's Soft Touch Varnish works extremely well. So I've got my shading in. Now I'm going to put a float of warm white on there. And for the same reason that I did all of the lighter values, like the warm white and the orange or the yellows that I put, or the sunny day that I put down, all those opaque colors are for enhancing the neon that's going over top of it. So I'm using a little bit of warm white, and I'm coming in from the edge just slightly. So that highlight is going to be in from the edge, leaving a little bit of that sunny day exposed at the edge. Just a little. I might have got a little too much warm white on there, but a little float of warm white. I got it a little bright, so I'm just diffusing it a little with my finger. A little bit of warm white. Coming in from the edge. Now the reason I do that is because this is an orb. It is spherical, not just round, it's spherical. So we want it to appear spherical. So I'm coming in from the edge just slightly, like so. There we go. So we got a little highlight on there, and now I'm going to use that torrid orange, that neon orange, and I'm going to go right over top of that warm white. That bright orange. Just that little bit of warm white just gives it a base so that it shows up well over top. So we have nice round spherical berries.
What's the name of the orange neon that you used?
Torrid orange.
Torrid.
Torrid. Torrid. Torrid orange. There is another color in that neon lineup. It's this one. It's called Sizzling Pink. They used to have a red, but they discontinued it. But the Sizzling Pink is extremely transparent, so it works over top of reds too. And the neon orange, I love this one. That scorching yellow. And then, of course, I love this one too, that thermal green. So if you wanted to, you could absolutely pull a little bit of that pink in if you wanted to. Just so you can see the difference. If I take a little bit of that pink, look at a little spot here I could put it in. It's very jewel toned. So it's not really in keeping with our autumnal color palette, but it would certainly work over top of reds quite easily. So if you wanted a really bright pinkish red, you could use that neon pink.
Why not use eucalyptus leaf for those leaves?
I find eucalyptus is a little too green.
Too dark?
For me, it's a little too green.
Oh,
I wanted
green.
something more blue.
Ah.
Just a second, I'll find my eucalyptus. Yeah, eucalyptus is very green.
It's almost like a gray-green.
A little bit, it's very green, and I wanted something with a bit more blue, so that's one of the reasons I did not use it.
Ah.
I wanted to tie into that blue pumpkin.
Are you done?
Almost. We gotta do some lettering and some final details. So all of the little details I do with this. This is my 10-aught extra long detail liner. And the first color I'm going to thin out is a little bit of asphaltum. I know everybody's shocked by that. I use asphaltum like most people use black or white. So this is where I like using my asphaltum. I'm going to use thin lines of it to create those little details in my leaves. All these little vein lines that come off is just thinned asphaltum. You can also use thinned, a little bit of thinned warm sunset if you like. I've done that too in the other one. I like the details. I like those little fine lines. And you're going to do the same thing to some of these leaves down here. You can add little extra veins if you like, or just accentuate the ones that we've already put in. I'm going to grab some of that. I like that warm sunset. So pretty. So those little lines and details can go in there. We need a little bit of sunny day and a little bit of that, what is that color? Marigold. Jeez Louise. And I'm going to thin some of that out. We're going to put the stems for the wheat in, like that. And then I like adding little fine details to the wheat. You start at the base and just come out like this, just to add some little fine lines coming off the tips of the wheat. Just creates that texture that the wheat has. And that's just a little bit of that thinned sunny day mixed with a little of the marigold, just so that it's not bright. Like that. Just little lines on either side of it. And a little thinned Bahama blue mixed with a little bit of mermaid tail is going to be our stem color for our eucalyptus. And we got a little bit of matcha green. I'm going to put a little neon green into my matcha green. I just want to make it a little more vibrant. And I like to decorate the edges of my leaves a little bit, so I do that with just this. Obviously didn't thin it out enough. There we go. I like just this thin squiggly line at the edges of my leaves. Just softens things nicely. And then that same mixture I'm going to use to connect all of these leaves. Right here. It's just a little bit of matcha green. mixed with a little bit of neon. So I give these little leaves up here the same treatment that the big ones get. Little squiggly line at the edges. And the same with this one, this little guy here. And then we have to add a little, those curlicues. I like my curlicues. A little bit of that thinned green. This just sort of fills in things nicely. I like curlicues. And we need some down here too. I like that bit of bright green on top of that blue is always pretty. And as always, you can do as much or as little of that as you like. And then we have to highlight those berries. I'm going to use a little bit of warm white. And right on that highlight, edge of that highlight on the upper left, I'm going to put just a dot of warm white, like so. I like that little bit of bright on the berries. It doesn't have to be a really big highlight, just tiny little white dot. Just pulls the eye toward it, gives it that shiny look, little light impact point. And then that green that we used for to connect the leaves, we can put little lines of that in to connect the berries. And they're simple. They're not elaborate. Just a little line, just to indicate they're connected to something. So I'm going to, whoops, too much water. There we go. I'm just looking to deepen these a little bit. Here we go. So I'm going to dry this real quick, and then we're going to trace our lettering on. And I want to put paper on there and smear white paint everywhere. So I have my line drawing. Now, when I designed this, I designed it so that I could just drop the line drawing onto the 8x8 surface, like so. So that the right-hand side and the bottom of the page would align my line drawing so that everything drops back into place. And I'm going to use a little bit of white graphite. And slide that into position. Take it the right side? Yeah, okay. And my red gel pen, as I like my red gel pen. And just carefully trace your line drawings on, your lettering on. Now I'm going to use a 0 rigger to do this lettering because it's a nice narrow brush. And this is a fine script, so I don't want the lettering to look too chunky. Oops. Et voila. I have lettering. And we're going to do the shading first. And I'm going to do that with a little bit of thinned Prussian blue. And I'm going to thin it out quite a bit because I don't want it to be a black line. I do want it to be. So I'm going to mimic this lettering a little bit with a line of Prussian blue just to the right of the lettering. I'm leaving a little space between the lettering and the shadow. And this is just going to give the lettering the appearance that it's casting a small shadow onto the surface. So it looks as if it's slightly above the surface. And as I said, I thinned out the Prussian blue quite a bit, because otherwise it's just going to look black. And then the color for our lettering is warm white. I'm going to give myself a clean palette here. I have ran out of room. Doesn't want to come out of the bottle. There we go. So warm white, and I'm using a 0 rigger for this, and a little bit of Jo Sonja's Fast Dry Glaze to thin out this paint. I want this paint to come off the brush fairly smoothly. So I've got warm white. Now, the nice thing about a 0 rigger is that it's going to come to a nice little chisel edge. So it's going to make doing this lettering quite easy. So press down until the brush fills the space. Chisel edge, press down, let it fill the space, pull it along, and then release the pressure so that it comes back up onto the chisel edge. Chisel edge, press down, let it open, chisel edge, press down, back up onto the chisel edge. So by doing that, we're maintaining that space between that dark blue, that Prussian blue, and it gives us that nice smooth stroke. It opens it up and then comes back up onto the chisel edge. Now, because that brush has a chisel edge, I can use it to do all of those finer lines as well. I don't have to switch to a liner brush or anything like that. I can just use my rigger. Because it has a chisel edge, it will come back to that nice fine line. There we go. So for finishing up on that lettering, we're going to dry it really well. And then we're going to get rid of those graphite lines. I detest graphite lines. So have to make sure that everything is nice and dry. before I do this. Otherwise, I'll end up smearing paint everywhere. And I have 2 erasers that I use on a regular basis. This, which is the Factus Black black eraser. I love this for black backgrounds, dark colors. It works on everything, but for those things in particular, because it doesn't polish the background. It doesn't polish the black paint. I can rub. I don't get shiny spots. It also removes graphite very easily. So I can go around and I can clean up all of those graphite lines quite nicely. It also doesn't damage the paint in any way. So I get a nice finish. I don't have to worry about it making a mess of things. So cleans up all of those graphite lines really nicely. And then I'm going to use my gel pen, because I like my gel pen, to add a few little details, because I can and I like it. I don't know where my gel pen went. So I got a gel pen. I like the Uniball Signo. I'm just going to add a few squiggly lines to my edges of my leaves. Grab the wrong pen. So I like squiggly lines at the edges of my leaves because it's just, I like squiggly. I like adding details to things with this pen. And you can do it as much or as little as you like. I'm a fan. I like it. So I have a tendency to go back in and I add little vein lines and I do little squiggly bits because I like it. And it does add some nice contrast to things. It lets you add more detail. Little sketchy bits here and there. And then we're going to grab my fugly brush. Remember this one? Got to have my fugly brush. And we're going to get a little bit of asphaltum. And we're going to pick up a little asphaltum and thin it out with some more, just with a little bit of water or glaze. And we're going to spatter, because this is a rustic piece, and I like it that way. So I'm going to spatter with a little bit of thinned asphaltum. Then I'm going to rinse out my fugly brush, and we're going to repeat that with a little bit of warm white. I like spatter. Spatter does wonderful things for pieces. Now, once this is completely dry, I would seal this with a little bit of Decoart matte spray, because I use so many different things that I like a little bit of matte spray. Just seals everything in, and then I'll varnish it with a little bit of ultra matte or soft touch varnish. Either one of those will work really nicely. And I'm going to grab my white gel pen, put my little signature at the bottom, and Bob's your uncle, Sally Geraint. There you go. All the colors of fall.
All the colors of fall?
Well, a lot of them.
A lot of them.
Yeah. I don't know. This is just a fun piece to paint. It's not difficult to paint. Requires a little bit of prep time, but it's not difficult to paint. And it's an easy one to replicate.
Whee!
Whee!
To the wheel.
To the wheel.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. What uh-oh?
No uh-oh.
No
I
uh-oh?
fixed.
Okay. It's going to take me a week to clean up this mess. I think I took half the bottles off my paint rack. I don't ordinarily use that many colors in a project, but this one I just wanted to get as many autumnal colors in as I could.
Get
Oh, I see they're selling a electric bicycle this time around.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Alright, get my...
So how many names have we got on the wheel today? It looks like a lot.
I have a total of 203.
203 names on that wheel. Well, 3 of you are getting a gorgeous Dynasty Stencil Pro stencil brush, fabulous stencil from the Stencil Studio, and a vintage note stamp from Stampendous and myself, as well as a bunch of other goodies, because you know we always tuck other stuff in.
Of course.
So that is your giveaway for this week.
You want the first name?
I do.
Okay, here comes.
That would be helpful.
Mwah. Claudia Marin.
Right on. Claudia Marin. So Claudia, if you're not familiar, go to my website at tracymoreau.net and click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the homepage and send us your shipping information so we can send your goodies out to you right away.
What? Huzzah! Sherry Lee CZT.
Sherry Lee. Okay, Sherry, I'm not familiar with your name, but welcome if you're just joining us. We appreciate it. And if you've been with us before, thanks for joining in on the chat and whatnot. But please go to the website at tracymoreau.net. Click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send us your shipping information so that we can get your goodies out to you.
And the last one.
And
And Lori Fuller.
right on, Lori Fuller. Awesome. So don't forget, all the winners, head over to the website, click on that little speech bubble and send us your shipping information. And for everyone else, thank you so much for joining us as you do every Saturday. We love and appreciate you, and we love spending time with you. So we will see you again
The 23rd.
on the 23rd. Wow, but you're going to have 2 videos. You'll have one on the 9th and again on the 16th that you'll be able to watch and enjoy. We will have the patterns up, pattern for next week's, well, it should be up tomorrow. And the video will be posted on Saturday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Renee's going to take care of that.
I'll set it up so you guys have a chat room.
And so you have a chat room, yes, so you can get together. You're going to be doing a fun little birdhouse project next weekend. Birdhouse or pumpkin? Pumpkin, that's what it is. It's a fun little pumpkin project for next weekend, and then the birdhouse is the following Saturday. So you're going to enjoy that. I have a couple of Scully things on the menu as well coming up for Halloween. So we're going to have fun. So in the meantime, if you are in the southern part of the U.S., especially Florida and the southern part of Georgia and into various parts of the Carolinas, hopefully you guys are safe and well, and we'll be thinking of you. Hopefully your power is all back on soon so you're not having to deal with that. And for everyone else, thank you so much for watching. Everybody, stay safe. We love ya. Bye.
And pet your dog. Be a good human.